hair, try to imitate, the half ponytail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to say anything is wrong with being into any of those things, Dungeons and Dragons, role playing. It's not like those things alone will make you like a murderer. But I think in this case, the lifestyle represents where people's minds are. Mm-hmm. They're kind of playing in an alternate reality where you can be cunning, you can be brutal. Crime really isn't crime because you're role playing.
Yeah.
Being part of the goth community also is not, it's not what people usually make it out to be. It's just like anything else. We mock what we don't understand. And I don't, again, want to claim that that is an aesthetic. It's not necessarily anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It just, again, represents a frame of mind.
Yeah.
The other thing that is similar to the Raffaele case is that it was suggested that they followed Nietzsche's teachings. So the same guy that they read those books, he states that, the Superman theory, you have higher intelligence, you should be allowed to get away with anything that you can get away with.
Yeah.
Because you're smarter. So police are quick to talk to David and Alex. They claim that their alibi is that they're together all night, that night, playing video games at Alex's house. They are asked about, what kind of shoes they have because they have that bloody the boot print from the crime scene. Mm-hmm. Alex shows them a pair of work boots. He says that's the only pair of shoes he has. David doesn't really comment. It's pretty quickly confirmed as bullshit in their alibi.
Yeah.
When roommates tell police that they both left the house on the night of the 3rd, and the roommates were like, yeah, Alex has a pair of boots that kind of look like that. That's the tread. That's the sole of the boot.
Yeah.
So a few days later, police speak to Alex Baruni again, this time down at the police station. He was cooperative, pretty much bored. He was not interested at all. He's claiming the same story, and then detectives tell him that they could match his shoe with the footprint found at the crime scene, and they know he had matching, boots that matched that print. They give him a few minutes. He says he needs to think about it, and they leave the room. They come back. They read him his rights. He waives them, and he gives up the act, and he confesses to the crimes.
Gave his partner up too?
That's the thing. He does not.
Oh.
So he has details that are specific to the crime. The investigators are pretty happy that they're matching the details, and they're pretty satisfied with they found their guy. When they try to look at motive, he claims that he was, quote unquote, in a rut. Mm-hmm. And he had been planning to murder someone for over a year just to do it.
Wow.
He talks about how he strangled Kimberly while someone else beat her up, and how they went through the Wilson home, murdering her family. However, he never names his accomplice. Never.
Oh.
Yeah. They know from his statements, though, that David Anderson is really his only friend.
Yeah.
And he would do anything for him. So when they talk to David a day later, he acknowledges that obviously he lied. He wasn't with Alex at his house playing video games that night. But he won't admit that he did anything. He claims he spent the night driving aimlessly around Seattle and Bellvue in his girlfriend's dad's truck. He says he knew that Alex was planning on killing the Wilson family, but he couldn't give any reason why he would do that.
Yeah.
He was just basically, he's saying that they knew each other, but he didn't think that Alex ever hung out with her or had been really close with her. He told detectives that he hadn't spoken to Kimberly in over a year, that David himself had not spoken to Kimberly. So he didn't even know why Alex would do it. Yeah. So it's confirmed by David's girlfriend that he had her dad's truck, but she says it had basically the same amount of gas in it from when he borrowed it to when he returned it. Mm-hmm. And he had told her that he sat in the truck that night in the park. He didn't go anywhere, that he was just sitting in the truck all night.
Okay.
And again, Alex's roommates contradict the story completely, saying that they saw Alex and David leave the house at 10:30 p.m. on the night of the 3rd, and that one roommate had stayed up until about 3 o'clock in the morning, hadn't come back yet. Another roommate said that after 3:30 in the morning, they returned. They were fully dressed in black, acting shady. They claim that when they left that night at 10:30, they drove off in the truck that David had borrowed from his girlfriend. So with all this information, investigators get permission to search the guys' homes. They find pretty much damning evidence. At David's house, they find bloody boots that match the print from the crime scene. His girlfriend and his brothers confirm they're his boots. DNA found on the boots would be a match to William and his daughter, Julia. At Alex's house, they find a VCR, telephone, and CD player. Again, kind of reminds me of the Ruffey murders.
Yeah.
All of those three things have DNA on them that's linked to the Wilson family. They impounded the truck that David had borrowed and found similar rope, but not like the missing piece because the rope was frayed, so it was cut from something.
Yeah.
Not the same piece of rope, but similar rope that was used to kill Kimberly, as well as parts of a shirt that had been cut up that were found in the Wilson home. Later on, Alex says that he cut up the shirt and tied it around his head to keep his hair clean because he knew he was going to get bloody.
His Highlander locks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, his Highlander locks.
Can't mess up the dew.
I mean, it's all about how the hair looks.
That's right.
So there's also a pair of socks that are found in the truck that Alex states he used to cover his hands so he didn't get his hands bloody. Yeah. Unfortunately, the murder weapons are never found. So they don't find the bat or the knife that were used.
Okay.
All of this, though, was more than enough to bring charges on the guys.
You find the boots with the blood, like, you can't defend
and
that.
matching DNA. Yeah. So remember when I said David claimed he hadn't talked to Kimberly Wilson in over a year?
Yeah.
Well, that too was bullshit because investigators found a piece of paper with his pager number on it in her room.
Okay.
Yeah. And the pager was new to him, so he couldn't have had it over a year.
Over a year.
Yeah. There was also the documentation that she had been keeping, expecting him, saying that she was expecting him to pay back what she had lent him. It's about $500 that he was supposed to pay her back by September of 1996. So we're in 1997. He didn't pay it back. When some people in their group of friends were asked, David said he was pissed that she was trying to get the money back.
Yeah.
And that was why he was planning on killing her. Apparently there was a kill list that they had been making. Kimberly was on that list. And they had discussed it in front of a few people, which if you're going to kill somebody, you don't fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also was mentioned that he was pissed because she had recently come out openly as a lesbian. And the few times that they had dated on and off, she wouldn't have sex with him. And it pissed him off. Honestly, though, neither one of them really give a motive. They don't give a fucking reason for doing this other than I'm bored.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, David actually he doesn't admit to doing it at all. He doesn't say, even during his trial, he won't admit to it at all. He would gladly let Alex just take the complete blame for it. And Alex maintains that somebody helped him, but he won't say that it's David. So.
Okay.
Weird. So initially the two were going to be tried together. However, Alex's defense team tried to use I don't know how you say that. He tried to claim that he had diminished mental capacity, basically, as a way to lessen the severity of the charges.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for him. They claimed that he was suffering from deep depression. He probably was. And he admitted that he was thinking of committing suicide in the weeks before the murders. So he, I guess, admitted this to his mother. It was said that he couldn't see the difference between his role-playing fantasy and real life. A psychologist even, for behalf of him, gave up and testified in the trial that he was suffering from bipolar disorder, basically. None of it came to anything, though. The trial lasted for 3 weeks. It only took the jury a little over 3 hours to find him guilty. So he was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. They didn't ask for the death penalty because they, at the time, were 17. They were tried as adults, and because they were not adults, though, they can't ask for the death penalty. So life in prison without possibility of parole was the max that they could get.
4 life sentences.
4 consecutive life sentences.
You got to come back and do it again.
What I found that just makes me want to punch somebody is video of him leaving the court after he was sentenced. He's smirking. He's smiling. He's, strolling down the hallway in handcuffs, and reporters are, asking him, does he have anything to say? He's like, no, I have no comment. And he's just smirking, this smug little fucker. That tells me right there that you know exactly what the fuck you're doing. Mm-hmm. I don't care how depressed you are. I don't care if you're mentally ill. The fact that you are walking out of a courtroom where you just were told that you will spend the rest of your life in prison, no possibility of parole, as a 17-year-old, juvenile, and you're smiling and smirking about it, you don't give a fuck.
No.
Yeah. So a week after Alex was sentenced, David's first trial would begin. His defense team, I don't think that they really knew what to do for him. He wouldn't admit that he was there, that he did anything. They had all this evidence against him. There wasn't much they could say. They didn't even they didn't go the same route as Alex's defense team with the diminished mental capacity claim. His first trial ended up with a hung jury. So 11 out of 12 members found him guilty. It only takes the one, and that's it.
Yeah.
So he ended up a year later in his second trial with a new defense team. This time, they said, yeah, somebody obviously helped Alex. Obviously. There's evidence that proves that Alex had an accomplice.
Yeah.
It wasn't David. David wasn't there. He didn't do it. So Alex had somebody to help him. We don't know who it is, but it's not David. And again, to this day, he won't admit, even now in jail, he's convicted. He's there. It's done. He won't admit that he did anything. This time, though, the jury had no trouble in finding him guilty. They deliberated just over 6 hours. He faced the same sentencing as his friend Alex, convicted of first-degree murder on 4 counts. He is also serving life in prison without possibility of parole. So something that I found very disturbing that I wanted to read was from Alex's fantasy journal.
Okay.
And so, quote unquote, I have done the unspeakable. Death and killing neither worries or scares me. Within our hands, we hold the flame of life. I have done the unspeakable. I have become a god. He also wrote how his life had been one insult after another. His ego had torn down until only emptiness filled me. When I became empty, I filled that space with pain, anger, hatred, and evil. Quote unquote. Obviously, he's mentally unstable.
Oh, yeah, but it also sounds like he wants to confess but doesn't.
Kinda.
Yeah, because he said, I've done the unspeakable.
Right. And
like, what would that be?
Well, and then he goes on to say that death and killing, it doesn't worry me or scare me. So you don't find that doing those things is incomprehensible.
What about getting raped in prison? Does that scare you? Because that scares me. That's the only thing that